Hello, hello. Happy Valentine's Day. So, Valentine's Day is a day for love, and I hope that you are able to show some love today, whether that be for a partner, for family, for your pet, or even just for yourself, because we all need more self-love in our lives. But for those of us that don't have anyone to share Valentine's Day with, worry not, for we have character design. My favourite thing in the world. So today I'm going to be redesigning a character that I've been drawing on Valentine's Day for the past 3 years, and it's going to be a fun time, hopefully. I could just throw up some pictures on the screen for you, but I thought it would be fun if we could actually physically look at the previous illustrations. So I actually dug out some old sketchbooks here, so this is the earliest rendition of this character. This is from 2018, here is 2019, and here is the one from 2020. You can kind of see the differences between them. I definitely think that there's some improvement in the art here, so I'm really excited to see if we can step it up again and create an even better character this year. I love that glittery background. I did the same thing in 2020 here, I didn't in this one. I love the colours here. I think it's perfect for a Valentine's themed character. We've got the pale pinks, the hot pinks, a little bit of red thrown in. I just think it's the perfect colour scheme. I don't like the face at all, and there's some definite like anatomy issues with this character, but overall I really like it. I also love the little detail of the fact that she has this little piece of hair on the top of her head, but it is like heart shaped, and I did include that in all of the drawings, so we're going to have to include that this year as well. So in this middle one, I guess I decided to change up the outfit quite a lot, but overall I still don't like this one very much because, I don't know, some of the charm of the original was lost here. It's kind of an awkward pose. I think it's better than the original? I don't know. And I'm not sure that I like the big block of colour. I feel like it's very segmented, whereas here I feel like the distribution of the colours is a lot nicer. And here is the 2020 version. Again, I did that glitter in the background, which I love. I added a lot more hearts around the outside. Definitely added more details into this one, doing the balloons with the bow on. She's got the little flower in her hand as well. I even did this little tiny bit of detailing to the background, so I definitely think this is the best out of the 3 of them. I did change up the outfit a bit. It's a lot more similar to the original, but I gave her a skirt. I actually still really like this illustration, so I'm really curious to see if we can make it even better again this year. I'm a little bit nervous. So, like with most of my illustrations, I really like to thumbnail some ideas before I jump in and actually draw the illustration. So, okay, so how do we improve the design? A couple of things that I was actually thinking about were maybe changing up the hairstyle again, because I just feel like we can add a little bit more detail to it. So the one thing I was thinking was maybe if we gave her kind of some up, some down kind of hairstyle. So if we keep her bangs here on the front of her head, just kind of the messy strands, but then if we tie up the top part, and then we could still get that volume at the back. I don't know whether that's adding a little too much on the top of her head though, because I really like this heart idea, the little piece of hair that's like heart shaped. I also really like the idea of maybe changing her t-shirt shape, because I was thinking, right, let me draw it out. Please excuse my very messy sketching right now. We're just thumbnailing ideas. Straight across like this, and then down like that with a little heart on, so it looks like a little envelope. I don't know how I feel about that. It would kind of cover up a lot of her silhouette, but would that be cute? Does it translate as like a letter? I'm not sure whether that translates as well as it did in my mind. It does look a little bit awkward just having this random shape on the front of her. I actually like how in the 2019 version she's holding the balloons in like her left hand, and she's also facing like the right side of the page, so the strings are kind of flowing behind her, whereas in the 2020 version the balloons are kind of all squished up in the corner of the image. So I think I might try and go with more of a composition where those strings are behind her again, so that we don't have them kind of squished up in the corner of the page. I could do the bow at the back of her head, maybe? I'm thinking that could be cute, actually, if we do Let me show you up here. If we do keep the front of her hair the same, keep that little heart-shaped hair on top, which I think is really cute, and then maybe if she's got her hair tied at the back in a little bow like this, then we could keep some of that volume around her head, which I like. That adds that little bow element. I kind of like that. I'm actually trying to figure out which colours I used for this version in 2020, last year. Anyway, while I figure that out, what I was gonna say is I'm just looking at these colours here and trying to figure out which ones would be best. I definitely think that this pink here is really, really good for like a main colour in the illustration because it is such a perfect like primary pink. I just think it's a perfect pink colour, which I think could be really, really cute. I also really like some of these pale ones. This one could be really good for the hair. This one here could be good as part of the skin tone because it is quite pinkish, but I could use it as a shading colour. I also think that these pinks here, which are a little bit more purpley toned, could be good as shading colours as well. Alright, so we've got a pose, we've got a design, we've got a colour scheme, we've got a little bit of a composition idea going on. Now it's just time to actually draw it. Easier said than done. All of my pencils are so small that they're getting difficult to use at this point. I am absolutely obsessed with using coloured pencils to draw with instead of graphite pencil because I just find that doing the line art on top is so much easier, especially when using like coloured fine liners. I don't know, while I was doing my 100-day challenge I just found that using coloured pencils was just so much better and nicer, and I usually like to pick a colour that is in the similar tone as the line art colours or the colours that I'm going to be putting on top, just to make sure that there's no like jarring bits of colour underneath that are going to show through. But yeah, these have been kind of worn down, so I'll do my best. One of the main things I'm going to struggle with right now is just fitting the whole character on the page. For some reason I really struggle with just getting the compositions right at first. I really like going in and doing the details, so I have to remind myself to thumbnail the whole thing roughly as a sketch before actually going in and doing any of the details, because as soon as you start detailing things, it's then very difficult to change those things. So it's always best to go in with a really rough sketch of just shapes so that you can kind of lay everything out on the page and see where it's meant to go. I am a little bit worried about whether the silhouette is going to be really closed up over here. I didn't really think about the fact that the arm was coming down here and the leg was coming up, and we've got kind of the clothing moving in this direction because of the way that the pose is, but we'll stick with it for now and I'll see how it goes. I am a really messy sketcher. I have noticed that some people do these really clean sketches and like everything looks great the first time and they don't have a bunch of lines intersecting all over each other, but I am such a messy sketcher and I can't help it. I need lots of lines going everywhere so that I can understand the structure of something before I'm happy with it. So yeah, unfortunately that's just my working style, but I actually really like how the hair turned out. I think it turned out really cute. I'm trying to add a little bit of movement into it just to make sure that it isn't just a big block of hair. Hair is something that I actually find really difficult to draw for some reason. I find that a lot of other artists say it's their favourite part of the illustration, but I actually really struggle with it. But I think recently I've been kind of getting the hang of taking a little bit more time to make sure it all looks right. I think I used to just rush through drawing hair because I didn't think I was very good at it. But yeah, I've been taking my time with it a little bit more recently and I think it turned out pretty good in this drawing. I really like how it's going. I'm still not 100% sure about the face. Okay, I changed up the face a little bit, made it a little bit more cartoony, made the eyes a little bit bigger, and I think it looks cute now. I really like it, and I think it fits better for this image. Now I'm going to move on to the line art. Alright, so I'm just lightly erasing the lines, not too much, but just to get rid of any of the unnecessary lines that are under there, and then I'm going to go over this with fine liner. I like to add a little bit of line weight in places because I think it just adds a lot of dimension to the image. So I usually add line weight like where lines intersect or underneath objects as kind of a general rule. And I'm just going to go over the whole image kind of section by section and just lightly erase the lines and then go over with liner. And I am just going to do the line art for the face in black because I have an even finer pen in black so that I can really go in there and get the teeny tiny details. And also I just like to do it in black so that the eyes stand out and so that the face is kind of like, I don't know, just bolder than the rest of the image so that you can really see all of the detail. Okay, that's all the line art done and all of the pencil lines erased. And now it's on to the really fun part, which is colouring. Well, actually, I think I like sketching the best, but I think that colouring is the most exciting for the viewer because you actually get to see the image come together finally. Definitely think that these colours will work really well for the hair, and then I'm going to be using this colour for a lot of the little details all over the image. This is kind of a purpley pink. And then we have magenta, which is this really, really bright pink that I want to use for the skirt because I think that would look really cute. I usually like to start by colouring the skin first, so that's generally where I start. I also like to start at the bottom because I used to go in and do the face first, and then sometimes if I had accidentally picked a combination of markers that didn't quite work as well together as I thought they would, it would then kind of ruin the whole image. So I now almost always start with a kind of inconspicuous part of the image so that if the colours aren't quite right, it isn't as immediately noticeable. Have to make sure to be really careful around the face, just making sure that I'm not actually colouring over any of the lines, just to reduce the risk of it smudging across the face, because that's definitely happened to me a couple of times. I will have drawn something and then I'll go over with the colour and just smudge the line art. And I'm adding a lot of pink into the face and into the cheeks. I'll probably do a little bit less shading on the face just because I like the light to be on the face to brighten it up a bit, whereas I've done quite a lot of dark shading down here. Really, really love this cerise pink colour. It's absolutely one of my favourite pink shades ever. I just think it's such the perfect primary hot pink. It's not too dark, it's not too light, it's just the perfect pink shade. I think it's really, really pretty. For the hair, I'm starting off with just a really light colour and going over the whole thing, and then I'm going to start to progressively get darker with the pinks, and I also want to put a little bit of purpley toned pinks into the hair as well, just to make sure that it is differentiated properly from the rest of the image. I actually really love how the hair colouring came out, and I'm going to go in with this magenta colour. I'm a little bit scared. This is probably the darkest pink on the whole image, but I think it looks really pretty in last year's illustration, so I'm just going to go in and colour the skirt with this. I am going to go in with coloured pencils in a minute and just add a little bit of extra shading here and there just to add a little bit more dimension, but overall I actually really like the way that it's turning out. I really like all the colours together. I think it looks really cute. I definitely need something going on in the background because last year's definitely looks better with all the little details in the back, so I'm going to add some little hearts here and there, and maybe do that glittery box in the background. I'm just not entirely sure where to put it yet, so we'll see, but it's getting there. So I did end up adding a border around the outside. I was a little bit skeptical at first to add a border with this colour because these glitter pens are really liquid in consistency, and sometimes they're a little bit unpredictable, and sometimes they can be a little bit patchy. I absolutely love these glitter pens because of how glittery they are. They are really, really pretty, but sometimes the consistency of them isn't perfect, and I don't have great control with a brush, admittedly, so I was a little bit skeptical, but I did end up adding a border around the outside, and I think it looks cute. It doesn't look like the neatest border ever, but I do think that it frames the image nicely, and I really like the colour in combination with all the other colours. I think it looks really pretty, and it's super duper glittery. And of course, because I was holding a glitter pen, I got carried away and I ended up adding glitter all over the image. I ended up adding glitter to like the hair and her face and everywhere, because of course I did, because if I have a glitter pen, I'm gonna add glitter everywhere. The very final thing to do is to add the little white highlights, which I really love doing. I try not to go too crazy with white highlights nowadays. I definitely used to go really crazy with doing white highlights all over, and I think that there's definitely a perfect amount, and sometimes less is more, sometimes more is more. It really just depends on the image. I think that because this is so cutesy, I can definitely add lots of white highlights and it won't detract from the image, but even so I want to be careful about where I place them. Okay, before I go too crazy on the highlights, I'm gonna stop there. I think that that's a good amount of highlights. And there we have it. I honestly think it turned out really cute. I'm really, really happy with the colour scheme. I think the hair turned out much better this year. Actually, let's do a little comparison. So here it is in comparison to last year. Obviously there are some differences here and there. I changed up the composition quite a bit just to tidy it up. I definitely like the fact that she's holding those balloon strings behind her instead of kind of in front, because I just think that having them in front kind of made the composition a little bit distracted, but I definitely like it better now. And I love that hair colour. I do think that last year the hair was a little bit too bright, especially since I'd added that same colour all over the image as the little details. I think that the hair was just a little bit too bright, so I definitely like this year's, the fact that the hair is a slightly different tone. It's a little bit paler, but then we still kept those really bright parts throughout the rest of the image. I will say, considering this was supposed to be a character redesign of some kind, the design is pretty similar. I did change up the hair and obviously the composition of the image and little details here and there, but for the most part, like, the actual character and the outfit and stuff is pretty similar, so I don't know whether I can exactly call this a character redesign, but I did have fun drawing it anyway, and I think it turned out really cute. And it's definitely very cutesy and Valentine's Day themed, which is exactly what I wanted. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I'm sorry that this ended up not being so much of a character redesign and more just a character redraw, but I definitely had a lot of fun, and I think that she turned out really cutesy and Valentine's Day themed, which is exactly what I was going for. So I'm actually really, really happy with this, especially since, if you saw my last video, I've had a pretty big break from making these videos and from drawing in general. I really haven't completed an image like this in maybe 2 months, so I'm really happy that it didn't turn out too badly, because that was a fear of mine, that it was just going to turn out really awful because I'm so out of practice, but this has really turned out pretty well, I think. I'm actually really happy with it considering, so I hope you think so too, and I hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the next one. Take care. And that's a wrap on the Valentine's Day video.